featuring state-of-the-art stadiums, and carrying the solemn promise of pure, unadulterated football. However, what the global audience ultimately witnessed during that grand finale between Spain and Argentina will be permanently etched into the history books, not merely for the final scoreline, but for the suffocating, dense cloud of irregularities, controversies, and institutional shadows that completely surrounded it. Argentina undoubtedly reached the final, but their journey, left far too many unanswered questions in its wake. These are the uncomfortable questions that the highest-ranking executives in football desperately prefer to evade. For several weeks, millions of fans around the globe were unwilling witnesses to a tournament where the official rulebook seemed to possess wildly different interpretations, depending entirely on the color of the jersey being worn. We saw absolutely inexplicable refereeing decisions, deafening institutional silences, and a mounting tension that finally culminated in a championship match that many experts now categorize as the most fundamentally unbalanced game, thus in the entire era of the VAR system. But to truly comprehend the magnitude of the disaster that unfolded on that pitch, where Lionel Messi orchestrated an unprecedented and shocking incident involving Mark Cucurella, we must first turn our attention away from the field and look directly into the corporate boardrooms, because in the modern landscape of elite football, the real match is often not played with a ball at all. It is played with massive checkbooks, broadcasting rights, and deeply entrenched networks of influence. Today, we are going to meticulously break down, step by step, the hidden truth behind the 2026 World Cup final. To understand the suspicions surrounding the World Cup, we must first look away from the field and follow the money. The figure that raised the alarm did not come from sports betting or from a proven operation to manipulate matches. It came from the Argentine Football Association's financial operations in the United States. Tour Prod Enter, the company appointed as the AFA's international commercial agent, reportedly managed nearly $300 million generated through sponsorships, broadcasting rights, friendly matches, and other commercial agreements. But a significant portion of that money ended up in companies registered in Florida that had no employees, no verifiable commercial activity, and no real offices. Some used addresses belonging to virtual office services. In the buildings where they supposedly operated, the companies were not even listed in the directories. Investigators initially uncovered approximately $42 million in transfers to 4 companies: Soagu Services, Marmash, Velp, and Velpasal. When journalists investigated the people listed behind those companies, they found profiles completely incompatible with the management of such enormous amounts of money. They included a pharmacy employee from Bariloche, a worker at a small decoration shop, recipients of social housing, people carrying significant bank debt, and a man who had previously been declared bankrupt with no assets. Then, a 70-year-old retiree appeared as the manager of another company that received $2.4 million through 14 separate transfers. When contacted, she acknowledged being connected to the company, but claimed she did not know Tour Prod Enter, the same company that had transferred the millions. The investigation continued to grow. In total, 10 companies under suspicion reportedly received nearly $57 million from funds managed abroad. Then something even more troubling happened. 3 of those companies, which had received nearly $39 million, were voluntarily dissolved in Florida just 48 hours after the investigation became public. The AFA and Tour Prod Enter have defended the legality of their operations and retained the presumption of innocence. However, U.S. federal prosecutors and FBI agents began gathering testimony to determine whether parts of this financial network could constitute bank fraud or money laundering. None of this proves that referees, matches, or VAR decisions were bought, but it does reveal that while Argentina was competing for football's biggest prize, a secretive, multi-million-dollar financial structure surrounding its federation was under investigation. And when that context coincided with a succession of favorable refereeing decisions during the World Cup, the questions became unavoidable. Were they simply human errors, or had football once again become trapped between money, power, and commercial interests? None of these decisions, when considered in isolation, proves that any manipulation occurred. Referees can make mistakes, and VAR cannot completely eliminate human error. But when these favorable decisions began to repeat themselves, many people stopped seeing them as isolated mistakes and started viewing them as a pattern. The growing perception was that Argentina received the benefit of the doubt again and again, while its opponents were forced to overcome not only 11 players, but also decisions that seemed to tilt the field against them. The controversy continued to accumulate match after match, and when Argentina finally secured its place in the final against Spain, all those unanswered questions followed the team to New Jersey. And then came the decisive day, Spain against Argentina. From the opening whistle, Argentina tried to disrupt Spain's possession with an intensely physical approach. Alexis McAllister could have been booked early for a foul on Dani Olmo, but referee Slavko Vincic chose to apply a lenient standard. Cuti Romero and Lisandro Martinez pushed the physical battles to the limit before leaving the field injured. In the second half, Leandro Paredes was booked for an unnecessary collision with Rodri and came close to receiving a second yellow card, but the statistics showed a completely one-sided final. Spain controlled more than 65% of possession and produced 20 shots compared with Argentina's 2. Argentina managed only 6 touches inside Spain's penalty area. Argentina did not record its first shot until the 117th minute and finished with an expected goals total of only 0.22. The only reason Argentina remained in the match was Emiliano Martinez, who made 12 saves, the most ever recorded by a goalkeeper in a World Cup final. The red card finally arrived in the 93rd minute. Enzo Fernandez received his second yellow card for a reckless challenge on Pau Cubarsí. He became only the 6th player sent off in a World Cup final and the first since 2010. With Enzo Fernandez sent off in the 93rd minute, Argentina were reduced to 10 players just before extra time. Amid the tension, another controversial incident unfolded. Marc Cucurella approached Messi and partially covered his mouth while saying something. Messi reacted immediately, pointing to the gesture and demanding a red card, convinced that the Spanish defender had used offensive language. He also called for VAR intervention, hoping Spain would also be reduced to 10 men. However, covering one's mouth is not an offense by itself. The rules only allow a sending off when offensive, insulting, or abusive language can be established. Because no match official confirmed what Cucurella had said and the footage could not prove it, the VAR did not intervene and the defender remained on the field. His words were never publicly confirmed. Many viewed Messi's protest as a desperate attempt to restore numerical equality, but without audio or conclusive evidence, a red card could not be justified. With Argentina reduced to 10 players, Spain maintained the pressure. In the 106th minute, Nico Williams beat Nahuel Molina and assisted Ferran Torres for the decisive 1-0 goal. After the final whistle, Argentina's frustration erupted into a confrontation, prompting FIFA to open a disciplinary investigation. The financial investigation surrounding the AFA had already generated suspicion around the team. However, there is currently no public evidence connecting those financial transactions to the refereeing decisions in the final. What the footage and statistics clearly demonstrate is this: Spain dominated the match, Argentina relied on physical disruption, and the referee reacted too late to prevent the final from becoming surrounded by controversy. This incident raised an uncomfortable question. No one can dispute Lionel Messi's talent, but in that final, he was not being judged only as a player. He was also being judged as Argentina's captain. And where was the captain? Messi was not seen intervening to separate his teammates, demand calm, or stop a confrontation that was damaging his national team's image. While others attempted to control the chaos, he remained apart and was filmed crying over the defeat. His tears may have been completely sincere. There is no evidence that he was crying to attract the camera's attention, but a captain's responsibility goes beyond expressing his own pain. He must also react when his team loses control. At that moment, Argentina needed leadership and Messi did not visibly provide it. The final images did not help either. During Spain's trophy presentation, several Argentine players remained with their backs to the stage or looked toward the stands. Perhaps they were simply processing the defeat, but the gesture was widely interpreted as a refusal to acknowledge the champions, and the statistics left little room for protest. Spain controlled approximately 60% of possession and recorded 20 shots compared with Argentina's 2, before Ferran Torres finally scored the decisive goal in the 106th minute. Spain did not need excuses or a fight. They were the better team, maintained their discipline, and accepted the responsibility of winning through their football. Argentina, meanwhile, ended the night arguing over decisions, throwing punches, and abandoning the example expected from a team competing in a World Cup final. Because true leadership is not demonstrated only when lifting a trophy, it is revealed above all in defeat. Perhaps Argentina's next battle will not take place inside a stadium. It will be fought within each player as they learn that losing is not a humiliation but an opportunity to grow. Because before becoming champions again, they must first learn to behave like champions.